was right, standing in the station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was waiting for you. Make a move. Something inside you gives you heat, and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. Take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, hey, folks, welcome to Eye on the Target Radio on this GRPC, Gun Rights Policy Conference weekend. And so I don't know what you all have been doing all weekend, but let me tell you, there have been videos galore that are out and available on all of the Second Amendment movers and shakers and influencers just kind of all across the country. So so my video ran yesterday sometime. So when did your video run?
I don't have one.
Oh,
they would prefer not to know what I think about stuff.
There's probably. So if you're a frequent listener of this show, you may fully understand why they don't ask Rob his opinion on the Second Amendment.
I have some dark views on things.
The video producer is just a shaker, not a mover. So yeah, Rob.
I drive from the back of the bus, so whatever you posted is what I told you.
Oh, that's
along the line.
it. So whatever. So you think for me, and I'm the puppet. So I'm just the puppet sitting there, and you're the hand. Is that it? No, I don't think so. But anyhow,
you're the sensor that keeps.
I am the filter. There is no doubt about it. I have to, or in your case, maybe it's the muffler, because
muffler.
There's stuff that happens that's inside his head that is extremely, extremely scary. So it was really interesting. The Gun Rights Policy Conference. If you want to see what's happening, and you can, this now gives you the ability to kind of scroll through it. The thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't give you the face-to-face meetups with the people that is the amazing part of Gun Rights Policy Conference.
That's the best part of it, is when you get to see them in person, and then you can rebut what they have to say,
and
or
you can
at
talk
least
to
ask
them.
Some pointed questions as to why they think that direction. And
Rob's a big rebutter, if you will.
Well, I see a different side of a lot of conversations that most people don't see, or they refuse to see.
You're right. He's like, did you think about this? Yeah, I thought about that, or I don't want to think about that, or I don't think we need to think about that, or move on. Just moving on. So the question that was asked of me is, as media, what do you think was the biggest story of 2021 from Gun Rights Policy Conference last September until Gun Rights Policy Conference this September? And I actually picked that it was Mark and Patricia, namely Patricia McCluskey, because there was so many things that if you, as a listener of this show, you got to hear them interview and talk to us and tell things that you weren't hearing on the mainstream media. Tell things about the fact that they knew that those people were coming, the riot was coming into their neighborhood. They knew that the gate was locked, that she knew that the gun didn't work. And she made a conscious decision to take a gun and brandish it, knowing that she couldn't hurt someone and hoping that just the sheer presence of a gun was going to deter the crowd and cause them to stand back, but that she didn't want to be responsible for harming anyone. That was an interesting thing. I think that they were the story, really the story of the century, because there is nobody coming to save you until it's way too late.
Right. Well, and to have a gun that doesn't work, it doesn't make good sense.
It does not make good sense.
But also, too, look at some of the stuff that, they took their gun, then they were allowed to buy more guns. They've been trying to take their law license and some other things away from them.
Right. They're just trying to spank them as hard as they possibly can spank them, because Mark is now running for Senate, for the U.S. Senate. And there's a lot of people who don't like that concept at all. And there's as many who do like it. And that's why the ones who don't like it are so vehement about the not liking it.
As a whole, we had a guy a couple weeks ago ask a question if I thought gun control was better or worse than it has been. I think on a whole, the country is getting looser with its gun laws, and it's going to continue that way for a while now. I'm seeing this fight over pistol, what do they call them, pistol braces?
Right, the arm brace.
That's actually going to drag other things in, and so I think in the long run, the ATF is going to drop back off of the arm brace. They're going to back off of pistol stocks. They're going to back off of short-barreled rifles and short-barreled shotguns.
And where do you think that, will they come back and will they retract again for the bump stocks?
It's going to have to, any change that they make is going to have to be made in Congress. And I don't think that they have the votes for it, or they would have got Chipman in. They would have done some other things. So I think that every step that they're taking now is a step backwards, and so for them to look at something is to lose something, and so you're going to find it's harder and harder for them to bring any of that stuff up in the House because they take a chance on taking a baby step backwards in what they've already accomplished over the last 10 decades or so.
Well, and that's why it's so critical, some of the legal fights that are happening in like the 11th district and the 9th district and the 2nd district circuit courts.
Right.
Because they don't want to get it past that. They don't want to get it to the Supreme Court. And so they're trying really hard. If they lose in those courts, they're trying to cause them to just suck it up and take it in that district.
Well, you just see that they made it look so that the 18 to 21-year-olds couldn't buy a gun. And then they would come back and said that, the court said that was out and that they could buy a gun. Now they've come back and said, no, they can't. So this is going
now they're coming back to say that because they said the point is moot because it took so long to work through the court that they're now over 21 years old, so it doesn't apply anymore. So the gun people have understood the purpose of the word moot. In the long run,
it's going to make it go to the Supreme Court, which is going to cause it to nationally drop these so that you can go to a 12-year-old to be allowed to buy a gun. Somewhere in one of these, I had
12-year-old, so that they'll take the age restriction off completely. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And the funny part is people say, "Do you want here's
the Illinois one? Is that the story you're talking about?"
I was looking for. There's a quote about a gun government or something, and it was funny because when you talk about gun control, no one wants to go with no gun control. I mean, you could say, everybody says, oh, well...
Second Amendment doesn't cause, but yeah.
But there's a spot, and we just quote here about the Constitution says that...
the problem faced by the framers of the Constitution is some government is necessary. Too little government creates problems as bad as too much government.
Right, and so there's a spot in there with gun, you could say gun control is the same way. So if you say no, there's no restrictions, so a 5-year-old who's got a pretty good sized piggy bank and say he wants a Desert Eagle, is that a good policy or not? I mean, is it up to the parents to say yay or nay, or is it up to someone else in the community to say we don't think 5-year-olds should have Desert Eagles this week?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll grow up to be the video producer, and then they really need one.
But the thing is that if you're a criminal, you get out of jail, your debt society is paid. Are you allowed to have your gun back? I mean, they're talking that and some of the stuff now. If your crime was not a crime that you used a gun in the thing or anything, then why would you not get your gun rights back?
So if it was a felony, but it was like accounting or tax fraud or jaywalking or something,
they should restore your gun rights at that point But if you were shooting it out with the cops at the time that you committed your felony,
crime of violence,
then they're not going to give you your gun back at that point. But there's a spot where we need a little bit, but we don't need a lot. But how much is too much?
That is I almost need to record this snippet and save it and play it back to you, because when you say we need a little bit of government, I'm just my jaw fell down.
You do, or
I agree with you.
It's chaos, but how much is too much, and where do you set that line?
I don't know, but I'm sure that your line and my line are not anywhere near one another.
And that's the problem. As we get more comfortable, we allow government to have more control, and pretty soon, then they tell you when you're allowed to speed, or when you're not allowed to speed, or when you
when you can wear your seatbelts and when you can't, and when you can have a vaccine,
turn left on a turn, or right on red, or whatever you want to do. There's so many bizarre little rules.
Right.
It's like where's common sense enter into it versus somebody just making a law because they want to be famous one day.
Yeah, and they want it named after them. You're right. I hate it when I have to say you're right, but you are. That does make a lot of sense. So I agree that some government has to be there, but the government overreach is something that just disturbs the bejeebers out of me. So, hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about the history of something that is Second Amendment related, but he hasn't told me yet.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, the history section of our show is where we learn something, and some of the stuff we need to know, and some of the stuff is interesting to know, and some of the stuff is stuff. So where does this one fit in?
Just rifling.
Yeah, there you go. That's kind of like an inside joke here that we would do a whole show on rifling, and I was like, it's boring.
There's a lot of things in rifling if you need to know it.
You need to know it. So we are going to talk about internal gun safeties. Is that what you're talking?
I was just going to talk about the industry as a whole.
Okay.
How many of you have ever seen a little gun, say a Swamp Angel or a Blue Devil or a Red Jacket?
Okay, so nobody has heard of pretty much all three of those.
There's about 75 names they put on the same gun. There's like the little cheap .22 revolver that they made back in the day. When they talk about a $2 pistol or a regular Saturday Night Special, these little Swamp Angels fit right in that category. Most of them were like 22 or 32 or 30. They made 28 and 30 caliber rimfires even, but they were real cheap little guns, and sometimes they would blow up when you shot them, and sometimes they didn't. So it's
blowing up when they shoot them is not overly desirable to something that's in your hand.
Then there was the next step up in quality when you would get to, like, a lot of you guys have little H&Rs and Ivor Johnsons and stuff like this that were your grandpa's guns.
So that was the next level of quality?
Right, little 5-shot 38s or 6-shot 32s. The cylinder just free spins on them. They some of them have hammers, some of them don't. When those guns cost like $3.25 in the day, where a Colt would be like $27 at the time. So so there was a big difference in cost back when your money actually had a value. And
so you were at 10% of what a Colt cost. You could get a different car. Or different gun.
Different gun. But about 1915, Ivor Johnson, who was actually a bicycle manufacturer, a lot of Mossberg, Ivor Johnson, some of these, they started out manufacturing bicycles originally, and then they switched over to guns. Because the bicycle wasn't the big thing that it started out to be.
They thought the bicycles were going to be the transportation.
Before the automobile came along, the bicycle was going to be it, and
because you didn't have to feed your bicycle like you had to feed your horse.
Henry Ford kind of killed that for them. But anyhow, the gun industry, they made bicycle guns just so that if the dog was chasing you could shoot the dog. Back before people got testy about that kind of stuff.
Got it. Okay.
But Ivor Johnson made this pistol, and they put a transfer bar in the pistol. So if you dropped a gun or something, it couldn't go off on its own. You had to pull the trigger.
So was that the first transfer bar? The first.
Right. So if you look at the Ivor Johnson transfer bar, you can see the exact same thing in the Ruger. It's just a little more robust, as they say. But until the trigger is pulled fully to the rear, it can't. The hammer can't get to the firing pin. This lifts up a little flat plate that fills in that gap. And so, but this came from 1915. And the old company, Ivor Johnson, instead of stopping making the old unsafe gun, they just changed its name to the U.S. Revolver Company.
And they still made it.
And then the new gun then was the Ivor Johnson safety hammer gun. And
so Ivor Johnson was the higher quality, and the U.S.
And the U.S. just competed with the rest of them on the market. So you might have saved 50 cents by buying the U.S. Revolver over the better quality gun at that point.
Interesting. But Ivor Johnson was the company that came out with the first transfer bar, the first safety.
And they actually they called it Hammer the Hammer. And their ads would show someone with a hammer beating on the gun. And because otherwise the old guns, the firing pin set right on the bullets. Smith & Wesson didn't actually put the rebounding hammer in until about 1926. So a lot of it was just sitting right there at rest. So if you fell off your horse or you're out of your pocket in your bicycle or whatever, you could shoot yourself off your horse or something.
That would hurt.
But it was kind of funny that the rest of they put like rebounding hammers in and stuff through the 20s and 50s. But Ruger was the first one to actually put this transfer bar back into play in the 1972. And so it was a lot of people didn't like the fact that they did that. Other people today, they don't know no different, so they think it's the best thing ever.
So Ivor Johnson came up with it in 1915, and the rest of the companies didn't follow suit.
No, because they would like I say, they would put a rebounding hammer in so that the hammer would automatically back off away from the primer and be blocked. But it wouldn't. But it wasn't. There was no mechanical thing between there. Once you pulled that all the way back, then it would fire as normal. But if you just dropped it, that hammer, the rebounder would stop it from.
And so like Ruger, I know that after 1973, when they started putting it in,
When
they
went to
actually
the new model, they
offered
called
a
it.
retroactive kit.
Right, so you can send your gun, and you can still send your gun. If you have an earlier gun, you can send it in, and they'll fit the parts to it and then send it back to you. It somewhat affects the value on your old gun if you have it converted, but you do get all the parts. So if you want a converted gun, you can do that, and then your parts kit's probably worth $150 to somebody else who bought one that didn't want it converted, wants to convert it back.
They want to take it back to the original for collector's value. It's pretty interesting. So, I mean, to me, that is interesting that it took 60 years.
And we don't take the safety items.
We don't move fast. Is that what you're saying?
We don't take the safety items too easily. I mean, it's the old way worked fine. Why would we change it?
Okay.
And the Europeans are even worse than us. I mean, it's like they figure if you shot yourself, you deserved it because you weren't paying attention.
So you weren't safety minded as opposed to.
There's a lot of European stuff that didn't even come with the safety at all. It was either you carried it loaded or not loaded, and it's your call.
Yeah, well, there's still a lot of I don't know, lack of guardrails, and you could walk off a cliff, and they're like, well, if you
fall off the cliff, it's your own fault.
What were you doing on the cliff? See, I told you you'd get hurt up there. That kind of thing.
The funny part though is we're seeing more and more European companies buy gun companies here in the U.S. So they're by default, all of their design is going to the U.S. design. So the Europeans are getting that.
They're
whether
getting
they
it
like
just
it or
as
not.
that, right? That makes sense. I just find it amazing that Ivor Johnson was the tip of the spear on safety-minded things, because one would never ever think that. We'll be back.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Dan Perkins with your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
We are back, and with us we have our interview section, and we have Sarah Joy Albrecht, and she is the executive director of an organization, a 501c3 not-for-profit called Hold My Guns. And this week I had an opportunity to actually recommend Hold My Guns to someone, and because of that I was like, let me reach out to Sarah Joy and ask her to come on to the show and let's talk about it, because the response that I had gotten was people hadn't heard of it, and I was like, that's a darn shame, and so we need to fix that. So Sarah Joy, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
Thanks for having me, Amanda, and thank you for being a good listener to your friend and for recommending Hold My Guns. That just makes my heart sing.
Yeah, it was. We were I was on a group post, and the issue came up, and it was like, well, have you heard about this? Have you thought about that? Have you, offering options? So let's talk a little bit so that our listeners get an idea of what Hold My Guns is. And so the mission statement says that it is to connect responsible firearms owners with voluntary, private, off-site storage options through a national network of partnering gun shops and FFLs. And and it's for a variety of reasons, including during times of a mental health crisis or a personal need. So talk to me a little bit about how did this come about?
Exactly. I'm saying exactly because it is not just simply for the prevention of suicide. It is for a myriad of reasons. Personal need can include going away on deployment or vacation. But the reason why I founded Hold My Guns was because we lost an 18-year-old family friend to suicide by firearm. And I am a range safety officer. And when my kids came to me and said, Mom, we miss our friend. We value the Second Amendment and how it preserves our rights. But what do we do to help gun owners and their families when there's a crisis in the home? And so I reached out to Joshua Prince, who is now our official legal counsel. And I said, Josh, how can we help gun owners? I have a vision for working with gun shops and providing voluntary storage with no questions asked, because we know that for whatever reason a gun owner is choosing to store their firearms, it's for the prevention of suicide. It's for the prevention of theft or accidental shooting. For example, if you have young children coming into the home, but your house isn't baby proof. So there are many reasons. And the first question he asked me, of course, true Joshua Prince style, is, "Are you a gun grabber?" And I'm sitting in his office, which is this awesome renovated barn, just filled with the coolest firearms, most like rare that you've ever seen. It's just awesome. And it was a little bit intimidating, but I just looked at him and I was like, "No, Josh, I'm doing this because I want to preserve our rights. And when we have an opportunity to help gun owners to take care of this concern, because not everyone has a friend or family member who can store a firearm for gun owners. And if we can take care of this concern and help people to be proactive in being responsible and provide options, then they can take care of their personal matters before they become public ones." And so our goal has been to just be a support to other gun owners in our community. And Josh said, "I'm in." And he wrote our storage partner agreement and our contracts that are customer facing. And it's just an absolute pleasure to work with him.
Okay. So what exactly does like a gun shop who wants to work with you, what do they agree to?
Well, what they're agreeing to is to store firearms for their customers, and also to be a light in their community and say, we care about our customers and we're providing this service option for you as something that we can do using our existing resources to come alongside and help. We like to work with gun shops that are established and that they have more of a brick and mortar type store. It's a little tricky to work with kitchen table FFLs, but you want to make sure that they have things like general liability insurance, which, if they're going to be storing firearms for customers, we want to make sure that if they have a natural disaster hit their store, God forbid, that those firearms, which are investments, are insured. And we go through that vetting process. So firearm retailers who want to work with us, reach out to holdmyguns.org. And you can click on the link to become a storage partner, and we'd love to hear from you. It really is an opportunity to let your customer base know that you're there for them at a deeper level, and that you care, and that you are happy to support them for whatever their storage needs are.
Okay. I mean, the first thing that came to mind for me was I have friends, a lot of friends who are traveling across the country and then want to go to Alaska. And it's like, well, I want to be safe the whole way through, but then Canada is a foreign country where my guns aren't welcome. And I thought of this, I looked at this and I was like, bazinga. This is like the perfect answer for that.
But there too, sometimes if you're on a different state, you can't, if you drop your gun off, you can't pick your gun back up there.
So that was the question I was going to ask. So if you gave them temporary custody and it's a handgun and it's not a contiguous state to yours, they do a transfer back. Can you get it back, or do you have to ship it back to your FFL then?
So let me understand your question. So you're saying if you were to store your firearm and you were then to go to another state, wait, let me give you the full scenario. So I'm based in Ohio. I'm going to travel cross country on my motorcycle to, let's say, Oregon, Washington, somewhere there. And then I'm going to head north to Alaska. Okay.
And so I can't cross over Canada with my handgun. So if I give them custody of my gun and they have to do a transfer back, can I get it?
In another state, if you were to, you said you're going to Alaska?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think that's something that could be arranged if you were to pick it up in another state, because again, when you're working with an FFL, it would just be like if you purchased a firearm from another state and then you were to have it shipped to your local FFL. So while it's outside of the scope of the Hold My Guns firearm storage per se, I'm sure that you could work with the FFL and say, look, here's my plan. I need to have it temporarily stored while I'm traveling, but can you ship it, because they're one FFL to another, that kind of transfer.
To do that.
And then they would be able to do it. And that's the cool part about working with a professional service like an FFL versus relying on a buddy to try to ship it to you. which can get everyone in trouble. Yeah.
It could get everybody in trouble. Exactly. Yeah. You can put something in a box, but it doesn't mean that when it gets there, the postal inspector doesn't show up holding the box.
Exactly. Yes.
Having that conversation. So how long has Hold My Guns been in effect?
Since June of this year. It took us a little while to, and by in effect, I mean that we were able to greenlight storage partners. So our first two storage partners are St. Bernard's Indoor Shooting Center, which is run by Brandon LeBoeuf. He also runs NOLATAC, and he's awesome. He's a veteran, and it's just a pleasure to work with him. And then our other storage location is in Massachusetts, and it is Casey Small Arms, and that is run by Chris Graham. So we're I love Chris's stance on just promoting leadership on the Second Amendment and providing firearms to folks. So we do have some upcoming storage partners. We have one that's close to greenlighting in the Pittsburgh area, and then we have also one in the works in Missouri. And our goal is to have a storage partner in every state, because just like we were talking about a moment ago, when you have to cross state lines, there can be different laws that come into play. You know, I'm going to USPCA Expo and just in like a week here. Right. And, you know, of course, like they have that map. It's like, all right, do you know the state laws from where you're traveling and where are you going to be crossing and what's the best way to do it? Because we as gun owners, unfortunately, because of all of the infringing gun control out there, we have to think about those kinds of things. And so it also comes into play with firearm storage. We would never want someone who's in a time of crisis to have to worry about, oh my goodness, what's my magazine capacity? Can I take it across the state line in order to store it because I don't have a partner that's near me? We don't want that. So we really want to have it to be an accessible service to everyone, and in a way that that they can feel comfortable that that they can do so without worrying about crossing state lines.
Okay, yeah, and that makes the most amount of sense, because gun owners know that the state lines have a whole series of different rules and regulations, and whether the gun travels with you or the gun is left in the custody of someone else, what are the rules? So the interesting thing is that as part of your plan, it is the fact that when you take a gun and you consign it to one of the partnering gun shops, that you have to do the ATF and NICS transfer to get it back, the 4473. So it goes in and out. It goes on their book, and it does all of that kind of stuff. Sarah, we've got a hard stop commercial break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and one of them is to tell us how a partnering gun shop can get considered for vetting. We'll be right back.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com. a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Okay, so we are back, and we are back with Sarah Joy Albrecht, and she is the executive director of Hold My Guns, and you can go to their website, holdmyguns.org, O-R-G, and see what it's all about. But the issue, the thing that it is about primarily, is to help Second Amendment advocates, help gun owners, if they're going through some kind of a life-altering, traumatizing something, and that suicide is a thought process, and so that you can safely take your guns someplace else as you work through the circumstance and then get them back. And so, and it is not that it's not that the government takes them. It's not that you've been adjudicated as anything. It is you just send them away for their own safekeeping, for your own safekeeping, and then you get them back. And you have to do a transfer, an ATF transfer, to get them back. But they are yours and they come back. So if a gun shop wants to sign up, how do they go about it? I mean, what are they going to be asked to do to be considered?
Well, first of all, you can go to holdmyguns.org and you can read about our program. And from there is a box to click to say, I'd like to become a storage partner. And we would have a conversation with the FFL owner and learn more about their gun shop and the community that they serve. And we will provide a storage partner agreement as well as a template that is customer facing, that is going to be state specific. So a moment ago, we were talking about how state laws can vary from state to state, and those laws apply to firearms transfers. So, for example, in a state where there is a waiting period to pick up a firearm, that would go into that customer-facing template. And that way we know that those transfers are ones that are being done lawfully, which is really important to reduce liability to the gun shop. A moment ago, you're talking about how we use the consignment and consignment return process as the backbone for our program and how it functions. And so basically, the owner of the firearm is still the owner of the firearm, but they temporarily transfer possession to the FFL. that firearm then is logged into the A&D logbook, acquisition disposition logbook. And in order to take it out of that logbook, you do have to pass a background check, filling out that 4473 at the time of pickup. The hardest problem for us to solve, which our attorney Joshua Prince, he reached out to the ATF and he said, what's the correct way to do this? And so in using that consignment return process, they said, okay, it's going to be a transfer. We have to make sure the person's not prohibited. This is the way to do it. So the customer would then come in, they would make their appointment, and then they would do that background check and pick up their firearm voluntarily, and then in accordance with those state laws. This is important because in order for gun shops to operate in a regulated space, they have to be able to work within those regulations. It doesn't necessarily mean that we love and agree with all of those regulations, but it's important if we want to use gun shops that we keep them compliant so that they can keep their FFLs. I have to say, though, like the hardest part was, what do we do to help store a firearm? And a firearm, as you know, is not necessarily like the whole part of the firearm. It's that serialized part. That was the hardest part to figure out. So whenever when you're storing that serialized part, you have to follow that process. That being said, most gun shops that are going to be part of our program, they understand that, hey, there might be a non-serialized critical part. Maybe that person doesn't want to store their firearm, but they want to store maybe a barrel or a firing pin or something like that. And so I would just encourage anyone listening that might be interested in this service, if they don't want to store their entire firearm, if they wanted to store a non-serialized critical part, that might be something they could talk to the gun shop about and make arrangements for it as well. So again, the hardest part to solve was how do you store that firearm and do it in a way that is compliant. And that is the process that we use. But again, you are still the owner of that firearm, just like you would be if you were selling the firearm and maybe you changed your mind or that firearm didn't sell in a consignment process. And that is a process that's used for the gun owner to come and pick up their firearm at the end of that consignment period.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So is there a cost to the user, to the consignee, I guess? Consigner.
There is. Yes, there is we leave that up to our gun shop partners because we know that they have a market price, but we encourage them to keep those costs low, knowing that ultimately we are helping gun owners in our community, and that we are we're saving lives, protecting property, and preserving rights. So yes, we encourage it to stay low. There are opportunities through donations to Hold My Guns that we can create scholarships that can be used if an individual needs that. It's very important that we don't ask why a person needs to store a firearm, because it's an invasion of privacy. So for whatever reason, if they're paying a small fee, it kind of keeps just like, okay, this is a service that they might be using while they're going on vacation. And it helps to retain some of that anonymity as to why they're storing versus singling them out to say, oh, this person must be in crisis because they need it for free.
Okay, well, that makes sense. And I mean, in the one line in here is like during a military deployment. So if you're gone from your house or your apartment for a prolonged period of time, so is there like a window that the gun shop commits to, or is it kind of open-ended?
It's open-ended, but that's agreed upon in the contract. It's a business contract, and for someone who might be moving to another state or to another neighborhood, and they know that they're not going to have access to their new house for a couple of days until settlement, they might say, all right, well, I'm going to pay the minimal fee, but I'm going to pick up my firearm. I might pay $20, but I'm going to pick up my firearm in 5 days when I have access to my new house. For some folks who might be going away for an extended period of time, like we lived in Japan for 2 years and we had to find storage for our firearms. So someone who might be going away for an extended period of time for a deployment or business trip or a long-term vacation, they might agree upon up front, hey, I'm going to pay this ahead of time, because this is when I anticipate getting back. So again, it's a contract and it's known up front. So there's a lot of transparency so that the gun owner knows exactly what is expected of them and what's expected of the gun shop.
Okay, interesting. So we've got a couple minutes left. What else do you want people to know? What question did I not ask that you're like, Doc, they need to know this?
Well, I would, a couple different things. First of all, I'm so super passionate about this, and I just encourage folks to reach out with questions. But I would say when we think about helping people and suicide prevention, and this is, we're coming to the end of National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and I just want to encourage people that all of us at any point in our lives there's potential that we could go through something that's really difficult. We never know if we're going to lose a loved one suddenly, or, if we might lose our job, or perhaps get served divorce papers. We don't know what the future is going to hold. And that's why it's so important that we work together as a firearms community to create a service and to help our fellow gun owners during times of need, knowing that very well could be us. We have to let go of that pride and just be vulnerable and say, you know what? I know you do the same for me, and this is something that that you can do in order to help just get you back on your feet, so you're not concerned about who has access to my firearms during this time, or maybe that person might be the gun owner or a person in their household. So it creates time and space for people to make decisions, and it makes sure that their investments are protected. So I would say, I hope that people take away the idea of any of us at any time could find ourselves in a situation where we might need this service, and not everyone has friends or family who are a good fit to help. And so when we work together to provide this, we come alongside of our fellow gun community members, and we show support, and we also help to protect and preserve rights.
Well, and I think that's a great point. I mean, because there's so many times when something happens in your life, and immediately there's like a circle of panic, and then time gives you the calm. And this, I think, Hold My Guns gives you the time for that calm. Thank you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
something that you do was red as the future was whatever you. Make a move. Something inside you gives you heat, and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. Take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Okay, well, we are back after the commercial break, after our guest on Hold My Guns, holdmyguns.org, if you want to check that out. And we are starting into a month of travel. It's like, okay, we're back at it. I'm kind of excited to be back on the road warrior kind of thing.
Right. I mean, it's nice we get to see your friends again and get to go eat out and do different things that you don't do when you're sitting at home.
So we are headed for Dallas for AMCON, the Alternative Mass Media. This is the organization that teaches and trains brand new Second Amendment folks who want to be writers and bloggers and YouTubers and videographers and all of that type of stuff. And we give them the hand up, we give them a hand out. And so that's happening. And while we're gone, it just so happens that we're in the next town over from the USCCA conference. So we're going to go USCCA for a day.
Crash that party
too. So, and then we will do our show live from a hotel room somewhere. That's where that is. So the whole studio's going in the mobile box, and away we go. So if you're a Second Amendment folks and you want to be a writer or blogger, go to AMCON, AMMCON.org, and sign up. You can, because the stuff is going to be available to you, the videos, everybody's presentation, the communication, all of that is going to be available to you through a link that is on the AMCON website.
Well, the next 2 weeks are going to be the most interesting because you'll get to see where Amanda loves dealing with the Wi-Fi that doesn't work, and we got like one hot seat, so they take a break. One guy jumps out, the other one jumps in, and we start on the next.
We've done this
round.
before. We've done this so many times.
Picture on my Facebook page of Rob Morris sitting on the bed in the hotel room in Las Vegas. It's like that's our green room.
Our green room is sit on the bed and shut up. Don't make noise. Don't jump on the bed. Right? So when we say we've got the portable studio, it's not impressive. The portable studio is not, because it's a different thing. You've got the
remember
gear.
those old projectors you used to have, like 8mm projector that looked like a little suitcase when you back in the day. That's about what our stuff looks like.
It all folds up. It goes pretty small, and we're good to go. So we're going to Dallas next week, and so we're going to see so many names, and we'll see who's around on Sunday night, and we should do the hot bunking and see who all we can get onto the show.
The thing is some of the stuff when you're there, the program is a little bit dry. It's very informative, but it's just it's like reading an English owner's manual.
But if you're interested,
when you get some people like Charlie Cook and Yehuda Reamer, they throw some comedy into their routine, and it makes the show so much faster and funnier when they
add a little bit of all of that. Yeah, because there's so much content, so absolutely much content.
The thing is, these guys they have a certain amount of time, and they're trying to get all the way through your stuff, and they have handouts and everything. So one of them may be on lighting on your thing, and you'll get handouts after the thing. So what they can tell you about mainly just makes you start to drool about the rest of the packet that you're going to get later that you can
read, but
then you can contact them by email for all the stuff that you don't understand what they're talking about.
Well, let me tell you, lighting is so critical. It's like volume. I mean, just the audio. All of the stuff on audio, you've heard bad audio and the reverberations.
And some of it sounds really good. Some of it's like far away. Some of it's got echoes. Some of it, there's so much different things. And some of it, we see it too, especially when we're on the road, where the one guy's fine and the next guy's over reverberating. So it sounds like
over modulated to where it really drives the audio guy absolutely insane. And then there's the guy who's the breather, and then somebody else who's a pen clicker, and all of those kinds of things.
People like me who do it all. I mean, I'm a pen clicking breather,
right? All those things. But that's really what the heart of AMCON is about. And then the following week we are going to Scranton, Pennsylvania, to the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival at the Tommy Gun Warehouse, and so. You're doing an appraisal fair. We're doing a fashion show.
That's a whole another group of friends that we get to meet at the other end of the country.
So we're moving from one end to the other. So somewhere like Greeley, Pennsylvania is near Scranton.
Right. And the Tommy Gun Warehouse usually has a pretty good size display of stuff. So
ammo.
We usually come out with a carload by the time we're done.
I'm not saying ammo, but I'm saying ammo. So there is that. And then we come back, and then Rob is home, and I head to Gainesville, Florida for another week of training the DC Project state leaders on how to do Second Amendment advocacy. So it's like the month of October is boom, boom, boom. There's not going to be anybody at my house to do the laundry. That's all I'm thinking about is 3 solid weeks of nobody doing the laundry. But no, it should be great. It's going to be great fun. I am so excited about the fact that we get to see people again. Second Amendment people, gun people, moving and shaking and doing things people.
You know, it's funny because I watch on Facebook, everybody posts the stuff, and they're all going out and getting training and doing different things. It's little groups here and there, but it looks like they're having a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Some of the groups are actually growing really good in this COVID era due to online and internet stuff. So they're picking up more members just because there's nothing else to do, and they can tune in to some of the different things. And also locally, they do have small matches or something like this so they can get there and meet some of the real people in real time.
Meet real people as opposed to pretend people or virtual people.
You know, we're not trap shooters. We have in the past and stuff.
Right.
But I'm watching Open in the New Jersey area. Those guys all get together. It seems like they get together on Thursday night or something and shoot.
And you're like, I want to do that.
I want to do that. It's too far to drive to go to New Jersey to shoot trap with all of them.
But some of them come our way because we have Camp Perry, and then we have the USPSA and the Steel Challenge, but so it just is. It's whoever's standing there and making it look like so much fun, as opposed to it doesn't have to be across the country.
Well,
it can be in your own backyard.
Some of it too, they invite you to go to some of this stuff, but it's like they expect you to have a somewhat modern weapon, and my gun collection is somewhat dated.
No, just odd.
I'm perfectly in line with 1921 or something, but not much newer than that.
There is a whole lot to that. It's like, you want to talk about a Webley? Here, he'll get you one. You know,
right, and I have scoped rifles, but none of them have heard of a mill dot or any of the different things like this.
Exactly. No, I get it. I mean, you generally are going for that. Oh, look at this history.
I love that age of the, say, 1890s to 1920, where when the manufacturers built a gun, the only way you could really tell the difference between the wood and the metal is the color changes. The line is so smooth and so.
The workmanship is phenomenal.
Even without bullets, the gun is such a piece of artwork that you're so happy to have it, and you want to show it to your friends.
Yeah. I mean, so those were hand-built, handmade, hand-worked.
Well, it's funny. You go somewhere to a rifle shoot, and you take like a 1908 Mannlicher Schonar, and everybody's in awe of the way the thing looks and everything, but they're also in awe of the price tag when they see what it's worth or what it costs compared to a modern gun or something. And then too, it's 1908, so you're looking at the scope that's on it is maybe at the most 5 power. It's full of dirt and old cat hair and everything
So it cannot perform the way current new stuff does.
Right, I mean, the best optics available at the time were nowhere near as good as the cheapest thing you can buy on the market today, just because they didn't know about filling it with gas or doing any of
all the technology stuff. I mean, they were using spider webs and hairs as the optics, right?
They were there, but they were just barely there.
Right. So it's so amazing the technology advancements, and watching them by looking at an old gun, you can see that. We'll be back right after this.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
This is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seffacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
So we are back. I was like, something locked up there, man. So you know that you can call us if you would like to, and call in and talk to us. That is always an option on hour 2 of our show. But let's start to talk about Tommy Gun Warehouse and Car Arms and Rod of Iron Freedom Festival. So car.com, KAHR.com is the website. Check them out. And if you're somewhere near the Greeley, Scranton, or within a couple hours drive, it is well worth your time.
Right, it's a couple days long. It goes on.
So the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival. So stop in, and then you'll see the Tommy Gun Warehouse at that time. You'll get to see Rob and I. There's so much other things to do. But it is very much well worth your time. So talk about CNJFO.
What do you want me to say about them?
You can say anything you want to say about them. What? It's like
they're fighting the fight in New Jersey to try to keep the gun grabbers at bay, I guess we would call it. And they need money more than they need anything.
It costs $1 million for every lawsuit that gets to the Supreme Court.
We keep saying how much it costs and how long it takes to do this stuff. So if you have some extra money, the www.cnjfo.com, you can donate some money. And like Dick Heller said last week, 27 little words, you can put $27 little towards
I think that was brilliant. Is that if everybody that's in the listening, it just makes a donation of $27 because that's not a big ask. It's not a big thing. You don't be like, oh, what are they expecting? Is it too little? Is it too much? Nope, $27. That's like the perfect.
That's only a quarter of a tank of gas.
We're not even going into that conversation right now. Man, oh man, oh man. So David Hogg is back in the news.
I love this guy.
So he's so trying to be relevant.
I'm glad he's not a stockbroker. Let's put it that way. His point of view is so bizarre. He says gun control will win because gun owners are old and dying off. I believe that back in the day that people noticed that too, but then they realized that they got old also. Old age sneaks up on everybody.
On everybody, the same together, right?
If you look at how things are, people vote at different ages for different things because when you're 20, you basically have no care. When you're in your 40s, now all of a sudden you usually have a family or something else that you're dealing with.
You're looking at preservation for the next couple generations.
Right.
You're looking out to the future.
When you're in your mid 50s, you're looking at your retirement, so you're voting that direction. So things change for everyone, and I don't think he has taken that into.
No, he doesn't take anything into consideration. Remember, he was like, "I'm going to create my own pillow company because the left pillow company is going to be so much better than the My Pillow company."
Well, the big thing with a lot of this stuff is we are a soundbite society, so we only hear little pieces. We don't question anything historically because our public school education has taken that away from us.
Okay, got it.
I mean, you think about it. You ask a kid today, when was the television invented? Long time ago. So they don't think about the fact that there was a time you went and stood in front of the television store to watch your favorite TV
They
show.
wouldn't know that. It's moving so fast. I mean, you look at it now, the kids that are graduating from high school have never had the joy of making their own mixtape on a cassette. Let's not even talk 8-track. Let's just talk mixtape on a cassette. They don't have to. It's all been computerized.
Waited on Friday night to call your radio station to get them to play your favorite song so that you could dial in and get them to play a different song every couple of minutes.
Yeah, none of that. None of that. And then you're trying to make your mixtape when they did that so that you could listen to it again.
When we were kids, we had black and white television, and one of them actually had a night screen, so you had to actually sit under a blanket in the daytime so that you could actually see the thing. And so television's gone a long ways, but we think of it's such a part of our lifestyle that we think it's always been here.
Right.
And we don't look at a lot of different things like that are relatively new thing. In the old days, people had to read the newspaper, or they had to actually go to see the speaker in person to hear what was going on. Now they post it on YouTube, and everybody can watch it at their leisure, or they don't watch it at all, or
right, I can ignore it, or I can see it,
or 25,000 of your friends send it to you all at the same time, thinking you got to watch this, even though I don't have enough time in my day to watch all that stuff.
No, exactly, but it's that, so you can get focused in news, not just general news. I mean, it doesn't, and now there's the 24-hour news.
When we were kids, there was Walter Cronkite was on the thing, and Chet Huntley and
Brinkley.
I don't know what the.
I don't know.
Anyhow, Huntley Brinkley show was on,
Right.
but you only had like a half hour of news.
And so they
so
were
it
like
came on,
zooming
they
through.
zoomed right through the news, and then they were off. Now you can go to any one of the channels, and you got news 24 hours a day. So they got to keep filling you with something, and a lot of it is nothing. They're filling you with nothing.
Nothing that's something. Right. Well, and that's why they fill you with David Hogg.
I was watching a show the other day. It was a Chicago police show, and you know how they say about the gun buybacks that the people can turn them in for no questions asked and stuff. So that was the thing. This police officer in Chicago, he's watching one of these buyback things and giving out gas cards, and this older lady comes in. She tells him she's from the 112th Street area or something. She turns in the gun, which escapes me the brand right now, but it was popular back in the 80s.
Okay.
Anyhow, he recognized the gun as some gun that they've shot at him with, because it had the front was sawed off it or something, and so he couldn't ask her any questions about it. He couldn't get anything. He tried to get the police department to do something. They would refuse to do something because it would ruin their whatever you want to call that,
their reputation on the
no questions asked thing. So here he knew that gun was involved in like 3 shootings, but yet nothing could be done about the whole thing.
And he couldn't, and he'd lose the trail right there. That is decidedly disturbing. And that is one of the outcomes of this whole no questions
I
asked.
guess at least other people are starting to see this because it's making it on TV.
Yep.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
This is Dan Perkins with your songs and stories for soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
So the interesting part is of some of the news that came out is Tom Knighton, and I love his opinions of things. So he,
he's talking about the Wisconsin Attorney General, who's a Democrat, so he's funny, right, to start with.
Well, there is that, but I just like how Tom Knighton looks at things, and so. The interesting thing is that the Wisconsin Attorney General, Josh Call, has came out and said that if Republicans, not that the Second Amendment should not be a partisan issue, but he's like, if the Republicans would just get off of looking at election integrity, they'd have plenty of time to pass gun control.
Well, that's the thing. They always cite that they're wasting like $680 million on this
on election integrity.
Mm-hmm. I was just listening this morning to Governor Abbott from Texas, and he says that all government is made up of oversight committees. He says one looks at what the other one's doing, and the other one looks at what the other one's doing. And so all of this stuff, if we're looking at anything, we should be looking at election integrity anyhow, but it's all built into the system. So it's not like we're spending extra money. We're spending the money that was laid out for it in the first place. So
yeah, if we're not looking at this, we're looking at something, but we're looking at something. We're not just not doing it.
So this guy's saying that if they quit spending $680 million on this election stuff, they could just pass gun control laws, which is what everybody wants. It has broad public support, supposedly.
Everybody wants it. I think he's talking to the wrong everybody's.
Right. I mean, I don't know what neighborhood that they all hang out in, because my neighborhood doesn't want it. And
it's the sounding board echo chamber to where you go hang out with 6 of your closest friends, and you all agree on everything, and all of a sudden you're all driving the same car.
I don't think that, and I think that some of our problem with the whole country is the fact that you have gone and actually been at a party or a dinner or some other function with the actual senator, congressman, whatever, governor. Most people have not. So the senator, congressman, governor really doesn't know what Jimmy do-gooder down the street thinks or wants or says, unless he gets and calls or writes a letter or do something like this. And so most people just sit back and eat their sandwich and let
don't do anything else.
Bus go wherever it's going.
And they should be communicating with their elected officials. But I'll tell you, let me tell you about a call that I got. here is the way not to communicate with them. I answered the phone, and literally the first sentence is, "Do you know what's wrong with you?"
If you did, it'd save you so much money on therapy, right?
I could just fix it right there. And it went from there. This person had an opinion of something that I should be doing, and every time I tried to say something, he was like, "I'm talking." And then when I got to about the third time that I tried, then he's like, "See, you never do anything wrong. You're only," and it was like, well, since I'm not allowed to even say what I'm thinking or why I'm thinking it because you're talking. But it wasn't a conversation. If you disagree with your elected officials, be willing to have a conversation about why you disagree.
Or plan on running against them the
There
next
would be
time
that.
so that you can get your message out to
Right.
because if you think it, other people think the same thing.
And they may support you.
As
But
misguided as that may be.
But just calling and screaming and swearing is not going to persuade anyone to see your point of view.
Well, and too, like, I don't know if you listen to talk radio, but a lot of times the guy says something and everybody calls in and, "Oh, you're right, blah, blah, blah." But very few people call in and say, "No, you're wrong, and this is why I think
And
you're
this
wrong."
is why. And
I mean,
I think
but
that's
some-
acceptable
some
to say, this is
some
why I think
shows-
you're wrong.
Some shows are set up to take that type of criticism. Others are not,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to maintain your control, not call names, not tell them that I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
or to shut up or whatever, and try to get your points across, because if you have valid points, you may be able to sway other people in the audience, but if you keep them to yourself or you only tell them to your little dog, it doesn't get out to the community.
My little dog's very smart, though, and he agrees with me. No, but I see your point. But it really is a thing to where you have to be willing to have that conversation. But had this guy talk to me he's got a question, I give him an answer, I have a question, he gives me an answer, that it's called communication. It's a give
But I
and
think
take of
there's some of it that
information.
people are not set up for that, and I've seen like Candace Owens on you ever watch her when they're grilling her in front of the Senate or whatever, and they stop her in mid-sentence, they sidetrack her, and then they let her go back to where she was. Well, how many people could
go
remember
back.
where they were at or what their train of thought was actually about or something? And so they do that intentionally just to try to derail her comment and make it look like she's a babbling idiot instead of and it amazes me when I watch her that she can go right back to that spot.
How calm, how she can formulate that whole thought process and then
amazes
continue.
me to no end. And,
Right, because
very-
my head's already squirreled off on 3 other subjects, and then.
And besides that, then you also want to give the guy the middle finger and a couple other things.
And then, right, a little bit of that, because we could start the conversation with, "Do you know what's wrong with you?" Right? I mean,
But it's easily done that way, and so they do it intentionally. The other thing I was saying, one of the articles they're saying, well, the NRA, I argue all the time that, the NRA needs to do this or needs to do that. The NRA is not anything. It's a laser pointer, and you are a cat. And their job is to say, you should look at this, and then you should react suitably to that.
Right.
And they're saying that the last election that the NRA didn't really spend much money to get their point across, but they were able to use this laser pointer to get all the cats to call their congressmen and senators, and you can see it where Chipman is out.
well,
and
and
stuff
then,
like this.
and the
So they still have power. They're still the big dog in the group. It's the fact that we all think that you got to be super rich to be able to make it happen, and it's not necessarily the thing.
It isn't. You just need an army to stand up, and the NRA is the maestro at the orchestra, and he's like, okay, the flute section, stand up. Right?
And if people trust what you're saying or what you're doing, then you get more and more people to do this stuff. And if you don't have that trust, no matter what you say or how you do it, you can't control this large population.
You're going to come across like David Hogg, and you're like, see what he said again?
To those, the NRA started out in 1871, and it was your grandpa was part of it, your dad was part of it, you were part of it. They give you a nice magazine that everybody has a little article from each one of the officers that they tell you about things that's going on. So you trust what they have to say, and they don't just intentionally tell you lies or anything like this. It's hard for a little group to get to that point. I mean, they've spent whatever it is, 140 years, 145 years or whatever, getting to this point.
Building that up to where when they're E.F. Hutton, when they speak, everybody listens.
So when you're looking at these other little groups like the Second Amendment Foundation, they're on their way, but they still have 100 years of seniority they have to work off.
And they're not, when you look at it, they're not little groups. They're groups that are sizable, just in compared to the behemoth that the NRA is.
Right, and the thing is every politician knows who the NRA is. They don't necessarily know what power the GOA or the
SAF or
the
Firearms Policy Coalition.
So there's a lot of these that are out there, but they don't have the power that the NRA has, just because one guy going out of office will tell the other guy that this is the group that seems to have the answers, or the opposition.
And they have the voters, so they have the voter block, and that politically is really what
when
matters.
They say that we have 5 million voters, I mean, in reality, they have 5 million paid voters, plus they have 3, 4, 5 different people in the family that all are voting the same way. Sometimes they have 20 different people that are uncles, cousins, whatever, that are they're hunters or whatever, and they listen to what the one guy says. So if he's saying what the NRA is saying, then all of a sudden he's controlling a pretty big voting block on his own, just through his family. And
well, this is once again, it's a Tom Knighton story that came out that says why a weakened NRA isn't leading to gun control, because New York State really believed that they could defang the NRA and make it a toothless old man. And they don't realize that when Grandpa speaks, everybody says, okay, Grandpa, what do you need?
Well, and the thing, too, is people say, oh, well, they need to do this or they need to do that. If they do that, would that change anything?
I don't know. We'll find out after this.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, we are back, and I wanted to, I was actually trying to furiously look up when the NRA annual, the board meeting is. It's going to be in one of the Carolinas, and it's happening in the next couple weeks. So the interesting part is that the NRA is still under attack by New York State, but that doesn't mean that it is completely ineffectual. And so with Houston, the NRA annual meeting being canceled, then the NRA had to scramble to have their official meeting of the board.
Corporation papers say you have to have a meeting every year and do certain things and vote people in and out and do different things. So they just have to make it happen, or the people in New York are going to have one more thing to go against them about.
Well, yeah, there is all of that. So it's really interesting. The group of people that were elected onto the board have been posted, and so what's really funny is that everybody who was running, it looks as if everybody who was running either then was appointed to the board for a 3-year cycle or was appointed to the board filling a 1-year cycle where somebody had stepped away. So the Anthony Calandro, Antonio Hernandez, and James Chapman were all put in for 1-year membership or terms, and everybody else that was listed, and you can find them on the American Rifleman's site, they have 3-year cycles. So the board is transitioning, it is moving. Then there are people who are stepping away from the board because they don't want anything to do with what New York is having to say. There's other people who are stepping up because they believe that they can make a difference and they can be involved in a manner to where they can help move the game forward. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to watch it happen. We're definitely going to watch it happen, and we're going to see who the nominees are. But between now and the first of the year, we're going to hear the new nominees for next year's board.
Well, you always hear about people saying, "Oh, well, people like what is it, Magnum PI and
Tom Selleck, yeah,
right, and
yeah, so Ted Nugent,
Ted Nugent, these guys are on this board, and they say, well, what are they really doing for the board? Well, they have rich friends who, when they call them to come for a fundraiser, their friends pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for things that your friends don't have the money to
to do. You're right. So Tom Selleck can raise in one day more than a lot of the board members will be able to raise in their entire lifetime.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's the, so if you have a lot of friends that are pretty well padded, they can offer a lot of extra cash at some of these dinners and fundraiser things, and that's what the unit runs on. Everything runs on money. It's just a big giant motor that runs on money.
It is. It's a big giant motor that runs on money. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But I thought it was interesting to see because they generally roll out who the new board members are at the annual meeting, and the annual meeting is at the conference.
Yeah, it's funny, but I mean, I've been a NRA member since like 1968, and I don't know what goes on with most of this stuff. I mean, I can remember being part of the Neil Knox contingent, only because he went against the plain thought thinking and changed the course of the way the NRA was running, and so, but otherwise it's a one guy or the other steer, and they pretty much go in the same way. It's I don't know how you get much more involved to know what is going on and how to be there at the wheel unless you actually run for the board. But there again, does the average person have any idea where it needs to be headed versus where it is headed, or where it...
I think it's I think that the NRA board, a lot of them are elected based on name recognition. They're the most popular kids in school. And
but like I said, some of it is because you need these guys because of the amount of money they can raise.
You do need them, but
you also the guys like Joyce Hornady and this, they are the industry, so they see what
Ronnie Barrett. You need people who know how to run a P&L, who run a business, who understand how you do teamwork.
Right, and they see what's happening with the business from the inside, and that, and they're involved with what's happening in Washington and that, so they get to see what upcoming bills and that are. The average person who's just, I'm a squirrel hunter or a deer hunter or whatever, they don't pay that much attention to it. They're not that involved in it. It's like, where can I send my money is a better question for them.
Well, and in a lot of cases, people are like, I just gladly, let me send them $27 and not have to worry about it.
If you're a life member, they can't hardly continue going without more money. So even if you paid years back, send them a little bit of money here and there. It helps out if you could do it somehow that you could just drop it in a box without your name hooked to it. It keeps you from even being covered in more and more.
Well, there's a whole lot of keeps you from being, because what happens, my husband made the mistake of somebody called and asked for money. And he's like, sure. And he gave it to them. And then we got on every single buddy's mailing list for this good cause, that good cause, the other good cause. And whatever they are, they may be great causes. But you only have so much money, and so much money is allocated to good works. And stop begging people. So the NRA, that is a reputation that they have, but it's because it works.
Right. I mean, they wouldn't be sending you all this stuff if they didn't get some kind of
a return
back on it. So, but there's a lot to this. Pay attention. But like I say, the NRA and the rest of the Second Amendment is a giant motor that runs on money. So
there's so much to that. So okay, so let's talk quick. We got just 2 minutes here. What's going on in Illinois, and why do you think it's going to impact the Supreme Court?
Illinois has a big 70,000 acre forest preserve in Cook County, and they're saying that your concealed carry permits from Illinois have no place in their reserve.
Right.
So the judge says that this Judge Robert Dow, he's I don't know exactly where he's from, but anyhow, he says that their thing is too broad and it doesn't really tell what they really want to say. So he says that it doesn't count, so they can have a gun in the thing. And then
so he's issued a temporary stay from the law on the order to give the Illinois legislature 6 months to address the issue if it desires to clarify and to define and refine.
Because if he gives them a deadline, if they don't act, then he'll just stick with.
He just makes a final determination. Yeah.
And if they act, then they'll go that way. Also, in this article, it says in sum, the Seventh Circuit has recognized the right to carry firearms outside the home for self-defense purposes. This I had not seen this before, but this is going to help out with the Supreme Court's case against New York and their
that's happening right now. That
carrying
they
the gun
changed.
outside
It was called Corlett, and they've renamed it because it's got a new attorney general, and so it's got a new name that I cannot tell you what it is.
But they should be hearing that in November. So
right, it's coming up, and so this decision can be used as case law to help them and focus that. The cat and the laser pointer, if you will, right? It will help focus those kinds of things. That's one of the reasons why we all push to get legal cases sent up through the courts, because then once they hit a certain level, different courts can reference them and can use them, and the Supreme Court can draw from these. And believe me, the lawyers that are putting together the testimony to the Supreme Court, they've got their eye on this. So folks, we'll catch you next week.